Welcome to Your Property Radio. I'm Joel Malkin here with the founders of a great website, whatisashortsale.org. Ray Noble and Anthony Krupe here. Guys, welcome aboard again this weekend.
Thanks, Joel. Good to see you again.
Hi, Joel. How are you today?
I'm doing well. There are folks that aren't, however. They're maybe facing foreclosure, and a short sale is a great answer to that. So let's go ahead with Ray and find out what exactly is a short sale.
A short sale is when a property sells for less than the balance that's actually owed on the mortgage. The lender accepts a discount on the mortgage to avoid a possible foreclosure. So it's a benefit for the bank, and it's a benefit for the homeowner. So it's a very, very good option, and it's a word that we've been hearing a lot in the real estate industry over the last 4 or 5 years.
And, I know we always talk about this. There are other reasons for a short sale, and we'll talk about that a little later in the show. We've got a half hour. But I can tell you right now that I have some friends who have tried to save their home. They were facing foreclosure, and they tried to save. I know they had a few steps there, and they failed. What are some options for people who do want to save a home?
Well, first, Joel, we always tell people, exhaust your options. If saving your home, which in most cases is your first priority, then you should do so. One of the first things that we suggest is to call your bank, see if your bank is willing to do a loan modification for you. You might be in a situation where you have employment, you might have taken a pay cut over the last couple of years, or you might have taken up a new job where you're not making as much money as when you purchased the property, but you can afford your existing property to some degree, and you might have the option to, like I said, get a loan modification, call your bank. Maybe they could reduce the payments and put you in a better situation so that you could afford the monthly payments, and you're not struggling, you're not falling behind. Unfortunately, most people that we have spoken to, they have tried the loan modification step, and they've become very, very frustrated. Despite all their hard efforts and generally really no fault to them, a loan modification really, even if they've gotten one, might have only been a short-term solution.
Let me interrupt you just for a second, and for somebody listening that maybe this is all new to them, what exactly, break it down like I'm a 5-year-old, what is a loan modification?
A loan modification is when your bank reduces the monthly payment of your mortgage. So for argument's sake, if you are paying $1,000 a month now, the bank might determine, based on your current income, they could reduce the monthly payments to, say, $700. The problem is, Joe, with a loan modification, typically what happens is the bank will cast the payments over an extended period of time. So you might have had a 30-year mortgage, which has now turned into a 40-year mortgage, and you now owe even more money than you did when you signed the original note and mortgage. So you've
gone from $1,000 to $750, but that $250 doesn't disappear; it goes to the end of the mortgage, and now you've got more payments coming down the road, and more money owed. It's going to be longer before you actually own that home.
Yes, it's more money that's tacked onto the back end. So even if at some point where the house actually has equity and you want to refinance, it's money that's going to have to be paid back at some point. And again, the 30-year mortgage might have been a 40-year mortgage, or a 15 could have now turned into a 30. So, there are some discouraging factors with that as well. It's really in most cases a short-term solution.
It sounds like a great option for someone today. Like right now, now I can buy dinner, but right. What's going to happen for the dessert down the road, right?
Right, and that's exactly it. And that's where most homeowners get frustrated, even the ones that actually even do get a loan modification. The problem is as well, a lot of people that I speak to, their bank tells them, well, if you are current on your mortgage, the only way we can help you to do a loan modification is you have to be past due. So they start missing payments in order to try to obtain a loan modification.
They would miss payments on purpose?
Intentionally.
Yes.
The bank tells them they have to.
Yes, and here's really where it starts to get ugly. Now 4, 5, 6 months goes by, because it truly could take that long, where you've now missed all these payments. The bank comes back to you and says, we're sorry, we denied you for a loan modification, but the foreclosure process has begun. So as you were trying to get a loan modification, the foreclosure process has now also begun. So now 6 months has gone by, you're deep into a foreclosure, the loan modification didn't go through, or even if it was going to be offered to you, it was probably something that you said, this doesn't work for me, and now you're under the gun, so to speak, because you've missed a significant amount of payments and you're facing a foreclosure.
This is a real common situation that goes on.
Yes.
We hear that all the time. The bank told me I had to be late. They wouldn't talk to me unless I was late. And before you know it, now they're 6 months behind, and the foreclosure process has started, like Ray said, and now they can't make up those payments. It's unfortunate, but it actually it's totally what goes on.
Yes, and like Anthony said, it's not something that we've heard once. I mean, it's repeatedly, and generally that's why, we have had some people that have tried the loan modification route and it's worked for them, and there have been few cases where they've even gotten loan modifications and some type of a principal reduction. That's very rare. But again, if you're trying to save your home, we encourage it. Exhaust your options. This way, if the short sale is an alternative for you, or you believe it's your only alternative or your best alternative at that point, you at least know that you've exhausted your options and you're making a good, clear, concise decision, and you're ready to go forward without looking back, so to speak.
Committing to the short sale.
Yes.
You really have to commit to the process. If you don't commit to the process and you aren't diligent about the process, because you do have to supply the same paperwork that you may have done with the loan modification, it is a similar process, but we kind of quarterback that for people, so it's not as difficult for them. But you have to be diligent in that process. You got to get the banks things when they ask for things, and if you don't, you run the risk of something that we call getting timed out, where the bank will actually say, well, you have to start over. And then, at that point, you could potentially lose a buyer or whatever have you. But so it's important that once you commit to the short sale process, you are committed. So that's why, like Ray is saying, we always tell people, exhaust all your options before. It's so important. And there are ways to do that and people to speak to. And that's something that we're going to kind of try to touch on today.
Right. And that's Anthony Krupe there with Ray Noble as well, the founders of whatisashortsale.org. And I want to give your number out, 888-262-6933. The website, again, whatisashortsale.org. You've got a great how-to guide there. It's basically from A to Z on doing a short sale, pulling one off for yourself. You're there for guidance as well. And if you want to submit a question online anonymously, you can do that right at the website, whatisashortsale.org, considering your specific mortgage situation. Again, you are anonymous, and you won't get a phone call. You will get a confidential response from that question. And I believe, Ray, you had a little more to tell us about here.
Yeah, on a positive note, despite the fact that the banks have made it very difficult for people to get a loan modification or any type of principal reduction, the banks have created internal programs that have allowed you to short sell your property. There have been even government programs that were instituted that we speak about all the time, which was the HOFA program and the Mortgage Debt Relief Act, which will help homeowners get some type of relocation assistance money, waive any deficiencies, any promissory notes, and also save them from any tax consequences, so they're not paying any capital gains tax.
And also both of those are, as of right now, expiring 12/31/13.
Yes, they are. They're both due to expire in 2013. They were programs that were actually instituted in 2008. They were 4-year programs due to expire in 2012, and they only extended them one more year. So that's not really a good sign that they'll extend them again. We're not hearing that they will. Again, if you're in a situation where you don't think that you have much alternatives, these programs are excellent programs, and for the most part, even without the HOFA program, the banks have been quite liberal as far as giving people deficiency waivers. So again, even though they've been very difficult in working with homeowners for loan modifications, they've been quite responsive, especially over the last year or so when they were all fined. They were fined billions of dollars, and we've spoken about that as well in the past. They've been even more responsive in trying to help homeowners short sell their property. So try not to relate your negative experiences with loan modifications as being the same with the short sale.
Creating a plan is something that we always talk about here on Your Property Radio. I know that we've talked about the guy that just sits at home. He's going through a foreclosure, so he hasn't paid the mortgage in many months because
many of them have hired attorneys to help
Right.
do forbearance work where they prolong the process. But if you're doing that, it's important that you have a plan in place. Don't just sit there and wait for one day the attorney to call you up and tell you we got a trial. At that point, you're going to either have to write another check to go to trial, which if they have the paperwork, during that trial, it's unlikely you're going to win.
Yeah, and just to add on what Anthony is saying, just 2 days ago, I had a homeowner contact us that was working with an attorney, and the attorney gave them, 3 years that they weren't paying their mortgage. So the attorney did their job. They kept them in the house for 3 years, but over that 3-year period, there was no plan. Now they're at the point where their original mortgage was $130,000, Joel. They now owe the bank with late fees and this, that. It was well over $300 and some odd thousand.
Wow, so it's more than doubled.
Yes. And now there's a sale date on the property in the middle of July. And the attorney basically told them at this point, there's nothing else I could do for you. There's no more time I can buy you, so to speak. And there's a sale date. And now they're scrambling. And hopefully we can help them. There's not much time. But again, you had 3 years you were working with an attorney, and you really need a plan. And now they're frustrated too because they feel like, well, we spent all this money. We were paying the attorney. And now here we are. We're facing a foreclosure. But again,
Yeah, and if you do decide to go that route, if you have, even if, let's say that you're working with an attorney and they come to you and tell you, well, the judge has set a sale. We have to make a decision here. If you go back to the judge, and this is what I'm hearing from some attorneys that we'd actually do work with, if you go back to the judge and say, with a plan, with a solution, saying, look, we have decided to try to short sale the property, please just allow us enough time to do so. They're typically then giving you that time. But they're going to want to see that you started the process. They're going to want to see that you have taken the necessary steps to do a short sale. They're not going to it's not going to be lip service, because lip service is not going to work in the court. So they're going to want to see that you actually did something, which is like get your property listed with a realtor, start getting documents submitted to the bank, because the foreclosing attorney could actually verify this and then, say, okay, yes, they have done these things. So it's important that if, you are in that situation, you don't just throw your hands up in the air when you get 30 days, 20 days. You can actually get yourself time as long as you put a plan in place.
So having an attorney is fine, and if that's something that you want to do, obviously an attorney is most likely going to ask for money. But you can get a lot of assistance for free, and we talk about this again all the time. You're always telling us about all of the opportunities for free assistance. And I know that you get a couple of calls going, hey, what are you talking about, free assistance? Nobody does anything for free, and everybody's a skeptic. So why don't you break it down, Ray? Tell us, how is everything free? How does this work?
Yes, the good news is, unlike a mortgage modification where if you do work with somebody to try to get a loan modification, generally they will charge you if you don't go to your bank directly, or even working with an attorney for that matter. The attorney, of course, is going to charge you. Generally, they charge you a monthly fee. With a short sale, the professionals that you're working with, whether they be licensed real estate agents, licensed title professionals, they do not get paid for their services only upon the closing of the transaction. So there is no charge to the homeowner before, during, or after. The only monies that anybody is compensated is by the actual lender. So the real estate commission is paid by your actual bank at closing. The title insurance related fees, those are paid at closing by your bank. And if for whatever reason the transaction does not close, you change your mind, you have a change of heart, because it is your property, just like any other sale, until you go to that closing table, there's no recourse for you as well if you do change your mind. So nobody's going to give you a bill and say, well, you owe us for time that was spent and you changed your mind. So you really have no recourse financially. Just make sure you're working with the right team. Choose the right team. We always stress that as well. This is a process that, like Anthony said earlier, if it's not done properly, it's not done efficiently, you could be timed out. The process has to start all over again. Buyers get discouraged. You again might be in a situation where you're facing foreclosure. You might not have a lot of time. So working with the right team is as important, if not more important, as worrying about spending any money.
So when we talk about people that are, like we said, sitting around, they're getting the notices, but they're not paying the mortgage. So in their opinion, all is well and good, and eventually someone's going to come knocking at the door. So you always say, don't just sit around and wait. You can take the initiative, or should take the initiative, I guess, to call the bank, but make sure you talk to the right person. Let's touch on that.
Right.
Be proactive in the process. And just by calling customer service is not going to really get the job done. There are special departments, short sale departments, save your home departments. There are different departments at the bank that you need to speak to in order to get the process going. So it's important that when you do call, you are talking to the right people. That's something that we help people do all the time. They call, they get general information. They typically feel misled, and we'll actually then get on the phone with them and show them, look, these are the people you need to talk to. We'll get those people on the phone and find out what programs that people may qualify for, which is really important. There are a lot of programs out there. And once we have identified that program, that's when we can really start putting the process in motion. So it's important you speak to the right people at the bank, always.
And I know you've heard from people. You've told me that we'll call you and say, the bank didn't do me any good, because they're talking to Ralph, the customer service agent or whatnot. And it's not a knock on the banks. It's just you got to get to the right person, so that's important.
Absolutely. And the people at the bank, they're trained, candidly, they're trained to do a specific job. And people that have called the bank to try to even get questions about a short sale or even ask for a short sale package, because each bank has their own documents, addendums, and they'll get a customer service person that will basically sit there for as much time as possible, asking them for a payment.
Right, yeah.
And they're saying, well, but I'm calling you, telling you I have no money. I'm looking at a short sale, but you're still asking me for a payment.
Clearly, you're not getting a payment. I don't have money.
Right.
So, direct me to somebody who can help me would probably be the thing to say at that point.
Well, that's it. And when we initiate a short sale on behalf of a homeowner, most major banks now, Joel, they use an automated system called Equator. So we upload the files into their Equator system. We're immediately going to that department. There's nobody that's going to come back to us, from the get-go and say, oh, we received your documents, but can this particular person make a payment? So it's a completely different route that we take.
Right. And the other thing we should mention for somebody that doesn't know, and maybe, because we do know that it's hard to let go of a home, especially if you've had it a long time, maybe inherited it from a family member or something, but and you take pride in being a homeowner and owning one. You go through a short sale. First of all, you're telling me that in most cases, 2 years later, you can own a home again, as opposed to having a foreclosure, which basically locks you in credit jail for 7 years?
5 to 7 years.
Right.
Yeah, they look at a short sale differently on your credit. So within 2 years of short selling a property, you can actually qualify for a mortgage again, which is really, it's kind of...
It's a fresh start.
Yeah, if you think about it, you can kind of move on from the situation that's probably, not been a great experience, and start saving money again, maybe rent for a little while, get yourself back together, and now then go get a mortgage that makes sense for your current income level. Some people were making more money and they had curtailments in income. This is probably the number one reason people are doing short sales, is because they did, with the job situation the way that it is, people have had curtailments in income, and now they can take the income that they have and get a real mortgage that's fixed, and it's not going to be jumping around. Rates aren't going to be jumping around. So they're able to, comfortably buy a new home and not have to worry about their payment jumping on them and them not being able to afford that home again, which is basically really what happened, from 2004 to 2007 with all these adjustable rate mortgages, which is a big factor as to why we got here.
And in many cases, you're not just let go from the home. It's okay, short sale's done. Good luck finding an apartment. You're actually given as much as $35,000, and I guess we could call it parting money.
Yes, Chase, Bank of America, two major lenders. We've seen it repeatedly. They have given up to $35,000. That's another thing to keep in mind. You might have received a letter. You might have thought it was a collection notice. It could have been them actually offering you money. And also, too, you want to be aware of the fact that your loan, although today it could be with Chase or Bank of America, it could be service released. And once it's service released, you might no longer be entitled to that incentive money. So like anything else, the more you wait and the more you put off the inevitable, you might be entitled to something today that you might lose tomorrow, or even the incentive money could expire. They're not good forever. We have had people that were offered monies and it was only good through a certain date, and they didn't know.
We had a Bank of America. We had a client with Bank of America, $25,000 that he was getting to short sell a property, and he got service released. It went over to Aquin, and he ain't getting the $25,000 no more.
Right.
And now he's having a hard time making the decision whether he wants to do it or not. So he's sitting now. It's just because it took too long.
So we're talking about short sales. I'm Joel Malkin. It's Your Property Radio. Ray Noble, Anthony Krupe are they are the founders of whatisashortsale.org. You can call them and get answers anytime, 888-262-6933. Also, the how-to guide on short sales is right there at whatisashortsale.org. And if you have a question about your situation, you want to remain anonymous, you want that confidentiality, embarrassment, whatnot, no need to feel embarrassed, but some people do, you can submit a question right now at whatisashortsale.org anonymously, and you will get a confidential response. We're going to go ahead and talk about knowing what your property is worth, and if you find out that you're still underwater, that you owe more than your property is worth, the next steps you should take, and that's coming up next on Your Property Radio.
If you're buying a home, you need to know about title insurance. Most home buyers don't realize they have a choice when it comes to title insurance. Shopping for title insurance can save you money, and it can reduce costs on refinancing too. At Assure America Title Company, services have been designed to meet the ever-changing needs of their clients. Assure America Title's goal is to provide their customers with a quality and efficient title insurance service. They will provide a knowledgeable closer and will take the time to explain all the documents being signed. They will also provide a personal closing coordinator to act as your one point of contact, ensuring that a status update is always a quick phone call away. If you're buying a home, take the time to shop for title insurance. Call Assure America Title for a free quote. Call 1-888-348-7799. Go to AssureAmericaTitleInsurance.com. Click on the title insurance quote button on the right-hand side. Complete some quick info and see how you can save at your closing. Call Assure America Title Company today at 1-888-348-7799 or go to AssureAmericaTitleInsurance.com for more information. Find out the difference that shopping for title insurance can make.
Is your property underwater? Do you know whether you owe more on your property than it's worth? Find out what your property is worth at whatisashortsale.org. Go to whatisashortsale.org and click on the How Can We Help You header. Your property may not be underwater. The real estate market has been improving. See if your home value has improved too. Go to whatisashortsale.org and click on the How Can We Help You header. The rest is easy. Find out what your property is worth. Go to whatisashortsale.org. Find out what the value of your home is at whatisashortsale.org.
Welcome back to Your Property Radio. I'm Joel Malkin with Ray Noble, Anthony Krupe. They are the founders of a great website, whatisashortsale.org. I want you to write that website down, and I want you to, you can make it like your Yahoo. Every day you go on, or Facebook, and you go to this one website every day, because you can really get a lot of information there. Whatisashortsale.org. And we were talking about knowing how much your property is worth. There's a real property evaluator there. You can find out the actual property of your home from a real person, and it takes into account the real property conditions of your home. It's not one of those computer-generated property reports. So whatisashortsale.org, and Ray's going to tell us some of the steps, and I know we covered some of this before. We'll go over them real briefly. What you should take when you find out that you are underwater in your home.
Property report is a great way to start off. Learn about your house, where your house stands in the market. You might be in a situation where your house might not necessarily be underwater. We have had that case where somebody thought they were in a short sale. They were actually able to sell their house as a regular sale, and they actually had equity in the house. Or you might be in a financial situation where your house might not be that underwater, and there might only be a very insignificant difference, and you might actually have the financial wherewithal to write a check for whatever you're underwater for, and you don't have to do a short sale. Second, if you do decide that I definitely am in a situation where this is a short sale, you want to make sure that the property is listed for fair market value. You don't want to list the property too conservatively because you're not going to get any buyers. And in the same respect, you don't want to list it too aggressively because you're going to get an abundance of offers, but they're going to be ridiculous offers.
Low ball.
Oh, absolutely. And the bank is going to do their own appraisal. In the industry, we call it a BPO. They're going to assess what they feel the property is worth. So there's no point in wasting time because in most cases there's not time to waste. Lastly, you want to have your affairs in order as far as what my property is worth if your bank challenges the offer. We have had cases where the bank will come back and say, okay, you've made an offer on this property for X amount of dollars. We feel it's worth this. And they could be wrong. And in most cases, they are wrong. So you want to have whatever data possible on your end to support your argument so that you could challenge the bank in terms of what they're saying the property is worth. Because if you can't come to terms on numbers, putting everything else aside, you're never going to have a successful short sale.
Moving from that is one of the main questions we always receive is that people call and ask. They go, well, do I qualify? Will I qualify? This is probably one of, very common question. And it's important that unless you're part of some sort of cooperative short sale program where the bank has sent you a pre-approved letter to short sale, which does happen, the only way for you to really know is by submitting a complete short sale package. Don't let anybody tell you, well, you're not going to qualify, you're not going to this, you're not going to that. Banks are willing to work with people. You need to submit a short sale package. It's the most important thing I could probably tell people because it's a very common question that we get, and it's usually there is a misconception out there as to what they should do. So submit a short sale package. You're never committed to it unless until you're ready to move forward. So just just start the process, submit a short sale, and see what happens.
Right. We've had people repeatedly that actually, after they closed, thought, wow, I didn't think I would be able to get a short sale. I didn't think I qualified for a short sale. We have single-handedly seen people qualify for relocation for job purposes in cases where it was an investment property where they couldn't even afford it anymore from an investment standpoint because it was negative cash flow every month. Disability purposes.
Somebody's in the military.
Military.
So there are other reasons, not just foreclosure.
Relocation.
For
relocation.
Sale,
I mean,
right.
Joe, we have seen so many different cases, and that's why too we encourage pick up the phone, call us. It's easier if we ask you some general, basic questions about your situation. Tell us, where your mindset is, and we can help you kind of determine what is the best alternative for you.
And there's never an obligation to call these guys. Ray Noble, Anthony Krupe with whatisashortsale.org, 888-262-6933. Everybody's situation is different, so find out some answers about yourself. If you want to remain confidential, you can submit a question online, as I said, at whatisashortsale.org. You'll get a confidential response. You'll remain anonymous. The how-to guide, you want to make sure you check that out as well at whatisashortsale.org. It takes you through all the steps A to Z on pulling off a successful short sale. Guys, another great show. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Joe. Likewise, we look forward to seeing you again next week.
Thanks, Joel. Enjoy the rest of your day.